Hey everyone, Dan at Bushcraft. Well, in recent videos that I've done on fire starting kits and homemade fire starting tinder, I've received some comments from people who just don't like to mess with the pet balls. That's the cotton balls saturated with petroleum jelly. A lot of people just find that to be too much of a mess, and so they prefer to carry something different. So I wanted to throw out a couple other options to you guys today that you could stuff in your pocket, your backpack, fanny pack, whatever, even a small pouch, and carry with you, and show you how well they work. Some of these options I have actually carried quite often. So let's start with the dollar store tinder. You can go to the dollar store and you can buy these rounds, cotton rounds. They come in a bag of 80 to 100 depending on the brand. People use them for makeup removers and other things. They're just a round cotton disc. I did a video recently where I turned these into char cloth. They make absolutely great char cloth. But you can go to the dollar store, pick up some of these, and pick up a tube of chapstick. Then what you can do, and what I've already done here, is you can take a bunch of those cotton rounds, tear them in half because you don't need anything that big, put them in a baggie like this along with a tube of chapstick, and then you can fold that up into a very small little bundle, and that'll fit in a shirt pocket, pants pocket, in a pouch, on a knife sheath, whatever, and weighs almost nothing. So let's go ahead and demo that one, and then we'll go on to these others that I've got here. And what I'll do, just to show you guys, is I'll open up a new one. So again, you get a whole bag of these, and that's just, I mean, if you need something that big, you could use the whole thing. I prefer to tear them in half or cut them in half, and that makes a nice fire starter right there. In fact, you could even quarter them. So I'll put that where you guys can see, right here. May have to weight them down, the wind's blowing a little bit. All right, one of these we'll leave completely as is. Tilt you guys just a little bit. And the other one, we'll just rub some chapstick on one end. This is what I usually do, is I'll leave one end dry to catch the sparks, and take some chapstick and just make some passes on the end. And of course, the cotton will stick to the chapstick a little bit, but it'll come off there. All right. So this one has chapstick on it. This one does not. So you can see the difference when we light them both up. And I'm dealing with the wind. The wind's actually blowing that out. So there you go. So you can see you're not getting much of a flame, and it's not very wind resistant on the one without the chapstick. But now we'll try the one with the chapstick. And as you can see, we now have a nice fire starting source, and it's wind resistant, and it's going to burn for a much longer time and give a much bigger flame. And the more chapstick that I use on that, the longer it's going to burn. Now, I could have made some more passes, made that heavier. So that makes a nice alternative method to the cotton balls and petroleum jelly. You just carry a tube of chapstick and some of these little cotton pads in your pocket. All right, another option. These little Tinder Tabs, quick Tinder Tabs, these are pretty popular. These are especially used a lot in mini kits, like kits that you would put in an Altoid can. I've seen where guys will put, 4 or 5 of these in an Altoids tin. The problem with these is that they burn up very quickly. Well, you can do the same thing. You can put a bunch of those little quick Tinder Tabs in a small baggie like this with a tube of chapstick and carry that in your pocket. And what I will do is I'm going to take one end and fluff it up just like you normally would to catch the sparks. Again, I'm fighting a pretty good wind, so it's a good test for this fire starting method. So fluff up one end, flour it up, get some small fibers pulled up, that'll catch a spark. And then your other end, same thing. In fact, I'll set it down here and do it. Get the other end all lubed up with chapstick. Okay, so one end is fluffed up, one end has chapstick. Now again, normally these are only good for a very short period of time, but now that there's chapstick on one end, well, I almost have to put weight on that to hold it. There we go. This isn't my full-size ferro rod that's in my pocket either. I deliberately brought a smaller ferro rod for those of you who like to carry a smaller fire starter kit. So my quick Tinder tab is lit, and as it burns up the front end and gets back into the part where the chapstick is, that's going to act just like the petroleum jelly, and it's going to sit there and burn, and it's going to be wind resistant, and I'll block the wind a little bit so that you can see better. No, it's a much smaller flame than the cotton pads that I just did. But see right there where the flame all of a sudden got bigger? It's got into the back part of that Tinder tab now where the chapstick is. So normally where that would just burn itself out now, it's going to sit there and burn for a little while because of the chapstick. So chapstick is a alternative. It's flammable, you know, as long as it's on a source that will take a spark or take a flame. And it'll add to the burn time of anything that you put it on in the same way as petroleum jelly will, just not quite as, you know, dynamic, obviously. But for those of you who hate the mess, there's two alternatives. And I want to do another one of these for you guys. Just to show you. So let's say you're in a situation where you really need some good burn time. You can take a full one of these and just really put the chapstick in there, a lot of it. And flip it over, and we'll get some on the back side. And again, it looks like it's a little bit messy, but unlike the petroleum jelly, you don't get anything all over your fingers, and that cotton comes right back off. So this time, I put a lot more chapstick down in there, and I still got plenty left in this tube. Keep adding if I want. So if I'm dealing with wet wood and I need a better source, I could use a whole one of these cotton pads. I'll block the wind so that you guys can see better. So see how much we now have a much bigger flame and a much longer burning flame. You know, again, it's not as dynamic as the pet balls, but that's still a very good fire starting source. And if you got small twigs or whatever, get your fire going. You know, a tinder bundle made up, pine needles, whatever. That's going to do the job to get your fire burning. So again, guys, just some alternative ideas for those of you who do not like the pet balls. That's my favorite thing, is the pet balls, but I make them up at home in advance, and I usually put on, you know, rubber gloves so I don't get junk all over my hands, and there are other ways to do it, but I'll make up a batch and have them in my pocket and ready to go. I just wanted to share with you guys some other methods that you can use to get your fire started for those who don't like the pet balls. Wow. Well, that's definitely wind resistant right there. There we go. So that gives me several minutes of burn time on one of those pads. All right, one last thing, an idea for you guys who don't like the pads. I recently bought a big box of these alcohol prep pads. You can go on Amazon and you can buy them in bulk. I think I bought a box of, like, I can't remember if it was 250 or 500, but when you start buying them in bulk, you can get these things pretty darn cheap. So if one last alternative a guy could do, put a whole bunch of these in your pocket or in a small little baggie like this, which would fold up into a little square. You can put a bunch of these in an Altoids tin, pouch, pocket, anywhere again that you would carry your tinder. And just use the alcohol prep pads as your fire starting source. Now there's a couple different ways to do this. You can just take the pad out and use it. What I prefer to do is make a little X in the top, like so, and then I will open that X up. I'm trying to do this where you guys can see and see what I'm doing at the same time. And then pull that pad up into like a little wick on top of a platform. And it's not as wind resistant as something that has petroleum jelly or chapstick in it, so I put a little wind block there. And there we go. So also you can see the flame that's burning. It's much cleaner burning because it's alcohol, so it makes it harder to see, but there is flame burning right there. So if I put this down in here in the flame, and are we still burning or did we go out? It's harder to see because it's alcohol, and as you can see, it's not reliable, but there we go. So that's burning, it's just harder to see. But as you can see, it's not as reliable of a source. So it's an alternative, it's an idea, but it's not something that I would definitely bank on. I have a bunch of those in my first aid kit, and they are an emergency backup. If I don't have anything else, you can use an alcohol prep pad, and it will take sparks from a ferro rod, and it will get a fire going, but it is, as you see, it is harder to ignite. It's not as long burning, and it's not nearly as wind resistant, and it will burn out much, much easier. So this would be kind of like a last resort, but again, I just wanted to share with you guys some alternate ideas for you. And I would say money-wise, you know, you can buy these tabs on Amazon, but a small bag, a 50-pack of these little quick Tinder tabs is going to cost you far more than several packages of these cotton rounds that you can get at the dollar store. So get, you know, 1 or 2, 3, whatever bags of these, some chapstick. And of course, these also work great with petroleum jelly. For those of you who don't mind the goop on your hands or taking the time to put gloves on or whatever, if you goop one of these up with some petroleum jelly, I mean, they will just burn like crazy. I should have brought some out to show you guys. But anyway, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft, just some alternative methods for you guys to carry in your fire kits. Kind of a little bushcraft tip. Hope you like this. Take care, everyone.